Hi, I'm Andrea Cloninger, and I'll be doing a presentation on substance abuse in the military today. Because of the rising mental health issues and incidences of PTSD from the current Operation Iraqi Freedom and resulting Afghanistan war, we're seeing an intense increase in substance abuse amongst the military. The biggest increase is in alcohol abuse and prescription pills usage, and this effect has been primarily in the Army and the Marines, with some smaller resulting increases in the Navy and the Air Force. Being deployed, especially multiple deployments or for long periods of time, tends to be an indicating factor in increase of substance abuse. In the Army, people coming back from deployment for 3 to 4 months report a 27% alcohol abuse usage. Deployment in the Army increases susceptibility of substance abuse up to 4 times, and 43% report active binge drinking in the last 12 months. There's a culture of heavy drinking and the ways to form camaraderie and large-scale pill usage currently in the military. There is kind of substance abuse as a method of coping, desire to cope with uncomfortable feelings and memories, and also as a way to build camaraderie amongst peers. 1 in 4 vets report some type of mental illness or mental health issue, cognitive disorder upon return or being deployed in the military. 1 in 6 report PTSD symptoms. So studies have shown that soldiers are significantly more likely to get treatment for substance abuse than they are mental health disorders. And so what we are seeing is people drinking and using pills in order to cope as not to have to receive mental health treatment, and eventually having to receive treatment for substance abuse. Chronic pain from injuries is another source of substance abuse susceptibility. The military physicians wrote 3.8 million prescriptions in 2008, which is quadrupled from 2001. This is one because of the large-scale injuries coming in from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but also people coming in who are getting on opioids or pain pills with these injuries are having difficulty coming off, and so we're seeing a lot of addiction. The military requires treatment notification to those in command of any soldier. So if a soldier is to seek substance abuse treatment, their commanding officer must be notified. The military also has a zero tolerance policy for illicit drug use. This came out of the Vietnam War era when people were coming back from overseas with opiate and heroin addictions from Southeast Asia. So they instituted a zero tolerance policy. Soldiers are often randomly drug screened, and if caught on their drug screen, they are both dishonorably discharged, and they may even be prosecuted. So the reporting has been kind of deemed necessary because those using substances or drinking on duty or using illicit drugs are seen as reducing both individual and unit effectiveness overall. And so Olmsted et al. Did a survey, and they basically found that the stigma of receiving treatment is actually the largest barrier from treatment. So 24% of soldiers report thinking that receiving mental health services will damage their careers. 40% believe that they'll receive negative differential treatment from their peers and commanding officers for receiving any type of mental health or substance abuse services. McFarling and al. Found negative attitudes towards seeking treatment are frequently based on how soldiers believe others will perceive their treatment. So really it is the idea that they will be treated differently from their peers and seen as a liability. That is the main reason people don't seek treatment while still in armed services. Also, several research studies have seen that there's a general stigma in the military of getting treatment being seen as a weakness. And so that's another barrier of kind of the idea of being Army strong. So kind of want to spend a couple minutes going over what's actually being done about this. The first is an innovative pilot program by Gibbs. Gibbs is basically doing actual confidential substance abuse treatment and not being forced to report to command or notify command of people receiving mental health treatment or substance abuse treatment. This has had a huge positive movement in terms of people coming out to receive treatment, and so the program is being deemed pretty effective in its early stages. This kind of being able to receive confidential treatment is one of the highlights of the modern movement for substance abuse in the military. The Institute of Medicine has quite a few recommendations about what should be done about substance abuse in the military. First is the increased confidentiality that Gibbs is working on. Second is allowing for outpatient treatment. Obviously, it's more difficult when someone is deployed or stationed overseas. But in terms of during duty being able to receive some type of outpatient therapeutic treatment and increasing those services for veterans. So that includes the intense hiring that the VA is doing currently for LPCs and LCSWs to work with those in the VA. Also, the Institute of Medicine is calling for a redaction or relaxation of the illicit drug use zero tolerance policy. They're basically saying it keeps anyone who is using illicit drugs from receiving any sort of treatment, and being that they are afraid that they'll lose their careers. The Army is also implementing a policy in which the person receiving any type of opioid prescription for pain has a limited duration of prescription for 6 months, which basically means that if you're injured, you can only get 6 months worth of prescriptions before you have to go in under another large-scale assessment, and reduces the average person to only 6 months. This helps reduce dependency and can help deal with the necessary withdrawal symptoms under doctor order without it becoming an addiction level. Another is that the Army is having pharmacists monitor the prescriptions of anyone who's using multiple prescriptions for pain. So basically, your pharmacist is aware of how many pain meds you're taking, and it has allowance in the military system to recommend you having to come off some of those pills. Another thing that's being currently implemented is specialized drug courts. They're being set up for veterans. New York has kind of pioneered this program, and it's being spread to, I believe, 65 courts in 20 states. The basic idea is that there are courts being set up that deal exclusively with veterans who are committing nonviolent crimes, and that this way they are getting more services than they might otherwise being put directly into the criminal justice system, and also kind of understanding the pressures and symptomology of those who would be coming back with mental health issues, PTSD, and substance abuse. The National Institute for Drug Abuse is starting to give web-based courses to all members of the VA staff who deal with counseling or substance abuse. The National Institute for Drug Abuse has kind of realized that the VA is not prone to using evidence-based effective drug treatment programming, and is trying to implement policies where new, more evidence-based treatments are being used, and so they are setting up web-based programs where staff members can come in and kind of work through learning different types of evidence-based effective programming. The primary treatment that they are pushing currently is contingency management treatment, which is based off behavioral therapy, in which those who are completing the program, staying clean, and doing the work the VA requires are getting basically rewarded in the system of vouchers or tokens, rewards, things of that type. So it's basically a positive reward structured program for drug addicts or alcohol abusers in the VA. WikiEds and Estrada did a study in which they basically came up with a concept of the military as a whole doing a tiered structure prevention programming in which all people who enter the military really receive a basic level of substance abuse prevention training and knowledge, and then screening be done, and for assessment screening be done during these times where people are coming together, and those who have certain levels of higher scores on their assessments would go to second and then tertiary programming. And so that way the military has the ability to give a round base to everyone, and then also to give more specialized specific treatment, especially for people who are having tendencies without actually having reached the level of dependence. And so that kind of prevention training is a large-scale prevention training is an attempt currently to be implemented in the military. Also, the Department of Defense has put they have an alcohol awareness month now, in which they put some videos up on YouTube kind of talking about issues with young people in the military drinking. And the Air Force especially has set up kind of a what they call like a buddy wingman system, where people are told to basically buddy up when they go to bars or when they are drinking in order to keep each other accountable. So many researchers have said that the biggest thing that people can do in the military is kind of reduce the stigma and the basic idea that receiving treatment is a weakness. There was $6 million in research funds given to the National Institute for Drug Abuse and some other smaller research studies in 2010 towards these focuses. And the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration are currently working on setting up veterans crisis lines, drug counseling, and a variety of services for service members, veterans, and their families. So lastly, I just want to go through a couple of resources I found that were super helpful for anyone in the military. One was realwarrior.net. The next is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And the last is the Army Campaign for Health Promotion. The Army is realizing they're having an intense problem with substance abuse and pill prescription problems, and so they're really kind of activating some internal treatment programs, and they're putting up websites to help. So anyways, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it. Thanks.